It's only entertainment.
Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your cannabis business podcast. Today we got Brian Yager. He is with Lemon Haze, golf tournaments, bud tender events, all of that. Brian, thanks for being on the Talking Hedge.
Josh, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. We've been expanding pretty steadily prior to everything shutting down last year, and started in Washington, having a good foothold in Washington, and then started expanding down through Oregon and California and slightly into Nevada back in late 2019, early 2020. And then the world did what the world did and shut down for a long time. And as you and I had discussed several months ago, we were working on different options of how to bring the company out of COVID. And one of the ways we started to do that was we were doing different type of data. We have been doing different type of virtual events and collecting a lot of data from bud tenders and buyers and things like that, and really use that to keep the lights on. But as that was going on, and it was great, and it was doing what it was supposed to do, is keeping the lights on while we were in the middle of not the most fun year that we could have had, it became apparent. It became apparent back in December or January that it was the world was going to start opening it back up. There were going to be that we're going to have, as coming on the market with medications to bring the world back. And so we started planning on what we could do to come back. And, we're based out of Las Vegas now, after moving the company from Seattle to Vegas back in 2020. And at the time, Governor Sisolak had said that you could have an event starting in the spring of 2020, the spring of 2021, as long as it was less than 250 people. And we were trying to figure out, well, what the heck can we do for under 250 people that somebody might actually want to pay us for? Well, Josh, you and I have talked for years, and as you know, our business model has always been select a segment of the industry, design an event where we make that segment the VIP, make that segment important, get a whole bunch of them there, and then sell sponsorships around who would want to have access to that segment. Sometimes that segment was bud tenders. Sometimes that segment was buyers. Sometimes that segment may be growers. In this case, we said, okay, what can we do that's less than 250 people and there's somebody who wants to talk to them? So we said, well, the segment of that is obviously has to be executives. Executives are C-suite, VPs, directors, and because that was something that was small enough that we knew we could have a successful event with a smaller number. And we knew that there are people that want to talk to those executives, mainly being the ancillary companies, the lighting guys, the soil guys, the POS guys, the finance guys, so on and so forth. These are people that want to have access to this segment. So we said, okay, great. We can do less than 250 people. We want to be socially responsible, be outside if we can, have distance, so on and so forth. And we decided to do a golf tournament. Golf scrambles by nature, 2 forces per hole, 144 people. They're fun. They're outside. We knew we could be safe. And if we knew we could keep a majority of our golfers to the executives of the industry, then we could sell sponsorships to ancillaries. And so, again, at the time, it was just an idea to do one single golf tournament to bring the company out of COVID. But we said, I was here in Nevada, and I went around and I started asking all of the executives I knew in Nevada, C-suite VPs and directors of all Nevada cannabis companies, if they wanted to participate in a golf tournament. And we got the legal approved by Bears Best, which is owned by Club Corp. And Bears Best is a really nice course out here in Las Vegas. It's a Jack Nicklaus course. Club Corp was generous, even though they were a little wary at the start because the name cannabis was in it, but they did approve it. We got all of the executives from Nevada to play, and we got several of the ancillary sponsors to sponsor. And Josh, it took off like a bottle rocket. It was just so unexpected. Not only did we have great luck with having amazing sponsors. But what was really neat about it was we had amazing luck with the executives around Nevada. They were just ecstatic to come to it. They wanted a chance to be able to see like-minded people, to network with like-minded people, to have that kind of environment, and it just went amazing. Well, again, this was in the in the spring of 2021, and somebody mentioned you should do Arizona. Arizona is the prettiest girl in the ball right now. It's the newest rec market out there. So Phoenix is only 6 hours away from Vegas. Club Corp had already given us permission to use Bears Best, so I called them up and asked them if they had a golf course in Phoenix that we might be able to use, which they said, yes, we could use Anthem Country Club. So we went down and did the same thing. We went down and did the Arizona market and got the executives from all the Arizona companies. And that one took off like a rocket ship. So when I had two incredibly successful events come back that not only were financially successful for Lemon Haze, but incredibly successful for the industry, and the industry was just all a buzz about it in the two markets and loved them. We just said, okay, this is obviously something that we want to continue with doing. So we just scheduled a whole bunch of them. So we proceeded for this year, scheduling a tour that included Vegas, Phoenix, Oklahoma City, Boston, Detroit, Southern California, Chicago, and Florida. And each one of these have just been astounding, just amazing success, and so much fun meeting so many executives from all over the country. And in each market, they became so just something that everybody wanted to come back and was ready to do again. And finally, I said, this, we're currently of those 8 cities we rambled off, we've done 6 of them so far. And about 3 months ago or 2 months ago, I said, it doesn't feel right that these just come to a cold end and then we start back up. We start back up next year and do them again. It just kind of feels like we need to dot this I. We need to put a candle on this cake. And what I was very fortunate with was going around the country and doing these different tournaments was we were just getting to know a lot of people in the country, a lot of people, whether they be major MSO guys, whether they be major private company guys, or whether they be smaller cannabis companies growing, or even the really exciting companies that are really moving from really not really tier 1 to tier 2, not talking Washington, but just that first, but really that second or third level to the major level. And I thought back, and obviously in October this year, but always in the spring here in Las Vegas, where we are based, there's always MJ BizCon. And I was talking to a lot of the executives as we were doing our tournaments, and I kept asking, hey, you're going to be at MJ BizCon? I live in Vegas. We should get together. We should get a beer. And everybody was like, yeah, I'm going to have meetings. I'm going to do this or that. And they kind of kept mentioning about they don't really walk the floor. They just go for the meetings. And I started thinking about it, and they said they didn't walk the floor because they just got harassed by so many salespeople. And I'm really talking about the executives from the major companies now. And I thought about it, and you and I have discussed this before, Josh, too. I have a previous life before cannabis that I coached college football, and I did that for 12 years. And in coaching, we would always have our American Football Coaches Association convention at the end of the year every year, and everybody would go, and it was just a big trade show and meetings. You had ethics committee meetings and rules committee meetings, but really we were there just to see each other, see our buddies from around the country. But the head coaches would never walk the floor because they would just get attacked by everybody looking for jobs, looking to sell them video equipment, whatever it may be. So they used to end up actually having their own kind of party one night that was sponsored, where it was all the head coaches and they got to get together without just getting, attacked from every different direction by somebody trying to, get a job or do this or that or sell them something. I said, why can't we do something similar? How is this different? We're sitting there and we're spending time with all these guys from these major MSOs, and they're going to be in Vegas, and let's do something fun. So we scheduled what we call the Lemon Haze Cannabis Executive Golf Invitational. It's a by invitation only golf tournament at Cascada, which you have to be invited not only to play, but you have to be invited to sponsor. And our invitees were quite literally, Josh, the most powerful decision makers in recreational cannabis. So the invites went out initially to the executives this time defined as C-suite and VPs of all the major MSOs, the ones you know, Curaleaf, GTI, Tilt, Cresco Labs, Verona, the major MSOs that you know. And also a lot of the major private companies, worth $150 million or over $100 million, like the Fat Pandas of the world, the major companies that aren't publicly traded, but they are, very, very powerful companies. The Nootropics out of California, perfect example, Steezy. And it just again took off like a bottle rocket. We had, we're very fortunate to have a lot of people that had experienced some of our events, and because they had experienced some of our events, they knew that it was a good fun place to be. And we have guys, in the tournament, like Joe Bayern, CEO of Curaleaf, Sammy Dorf, co-founder of Verano Holdings, CEO of Jushi, Jim Cacapino. I don't know if I pronounced that one right. Jushi's chief commercial officer, Trent Woloveck. He's actually a good guy. We've got the presidents of Curaleaf Central US, president of Curaleaf West Region, president of Northwest Region Curaleaf, president and founder of Select. So we just have really an amazing, the entire C-suite of Steezy, Tilt Holdings, just a ton of them. So it really has turned out to be what we wanted it to be, which is really the largest accumulation of the most powerful decision makers in cannabis, all in the same room, all at the same time, for a great day of networking, of spending time together, of guys that there's not a lot of us, including myself, that deal with somebody that has to deal with that is the CEO of a $1.6 billion corporation. But these guys have other guys in the room that deal with that. So it's a good chance for them to spend time together and really have, at the end of the day, we're all competition, but at the end of the day, we're all part of the same industry. And so it just has turned out to be something that we're really excited about, not only because it's really helped Lemon Haze dig out of this hole that 2020 put every events company in. Mm-hmm. But it's also really helped us build something on the national stage that, in our opinion, is just as important as any other event that happens around the country. It's the ultimate networking event, business to business networking event for our industry. And that's what we're really excited about. How was that for a long monologue?
It was good. I mean, you dropped a lot, but a lot of people may not know that, you had events before that were successful as well. You've rented out sports stadiums, the Tacoma Dome, for example. But like you mentioned, you're not able to hold that because, that I think that thing holds anywhere from 15 to 25,000 people. I'm not sure what your attendance were for that bud tender event, but you obviously couldn't hold it, right? There just wasn't, you couldn't have that many people. And so this whole tournament, this golf tournament was kind of a pivot to stay relevant. Did you ever anticipate the success? I mean, what was the outcome you were hoping for?
Well, yeah, so no, we never anticipated the success. Like we said, it was originally supposed to be a one-time thing, a one event in Las Vegas for the Nevada industry, specifically to get us out of the zombie apocalypse that was 2020, and then bring us back to what we wanted, what we thought would be, which is our legacy products. We still have our legacy products of the bud tender events, of the buyer events. But yes, this is just another part of our inventory that we're now offering. But yeah, you're right, we couldn't. And that was really the worst part about it, Josh, was when 2020 was going on, and even when we were trying to figure out what we wanted to come out. We've done shows, as small as our bud tender parties, which is probably what we're most well known for around the country, but those are still 500 bud tenders in a room inside. And then you go up to our, and you mentioned, we've done two Washington industry conventions at the Tacoma Dome, which were several thousand people each. We've also done, if you remember a couple of years ago, we did a large comedy show, which we actually did sell tickets to the public. We had Hannibal Buress, Jeff Dye, a bunch of comedians, Saturday Night Live comedians. We made it so that the cannabis companies could advertise to the general public, and then we made the bud tenders the VIP. The bud tenders got to sit in the VIP section. They got the special treatment. I mean, that was a 7,000 seat arena for this comedy show, and so those are great, and I can't wait to do them again. But just right now, with the way the world is, you don't know what's going to be open. You don't know when it's going to be open. You don't know when they're going to restrict time again. So, so these, while these will obviously be a big part of our repertoire going forward, they are also just another part of our repertoire. We are bringing back the bud tender parties. We were very fortunate in July to be able to get back to Washington, our home state, and do a bud tender party in Seattle and one in Spokane, both extremely successful, well over 500 bud tenders in Seattle. That was an outdoor event, so we were able to keep everything distanced and safe and keep everything, the numbers where they were supposed to be. But yeah, I mean, you know, we've been doing events. Technically, you know, Lemon Haze formed officially in 2016 as a data company. Started doing the events in 2017 as a way to market the data. Then the events took off, like you and I talked about, and then we just got this fiscal sledgehammer sent across our head that everybody did. We're not the only ones dealing with that. We're not the only ones dealing with that. I think where we were very fortunate was we came up with what we thought was just a way to get out of it. And then when it took off like a bottle rocket, we went ahead and pushed our chips in the middle of the table. You know, financially, obviously 2020 was devastating for us. So when we did have that first event that had some success, we just went ahead and, like I said, we pushed the chips in the middle of the table and said, let's do them all over the country. And they have just been the most fun, the most well accepted, the most talked about things we've ever done in 5 years of being in business, and it's been great.
Short question is why. So for people that have been to regional events, you and I have been to a lot of events. We've seen CannaCon come and go. And so for those that are looking at regional events and they're hearing this about the golf course and they don't understand the exclusivity and the access, what are you going to say to like a skeptical either executive and or sponsor that doesn't really understand the whole point about a golf tournament? What makes your golf tournament special?
Yeah, you know, it's funny you said that, and there was a lot of skepticism, and still is to an extent, but it's funny how that worked. I'm so glad you asked that question. So, you know, at first, we first started planning these, you know, golfers are golfers. So first of all, if you have executives that are golfers, they want to golf. They all look at the course. They know they're high-end courses, so they want to be there. Excuse me. But even the ones that weren't big golfers but have played before started looking at some of the people that we had coming to the tournaments, and they were like, these are people that I do want to spend time with, and I do want to either see again or get to know. And when we did the very first one at Bears Best, and we start every event with giving everybody breakfast, having kind of a breakfast cocktail party, open bar. You know, we always call our breakfast bar where we have Bloody Marys, mimosas, margaritas. And for the first hour and a half, while everybody's warming up, we've got the DJ playing, we've got this little cocktail party, and everybody just starts networking and they start seeing their friends from around the industry. A lot of times you haven't seen these guys in a long time or women in a long time, and they start spending time together, and they just becomes this amazing networking community together. Then everybody heads out for the scramble. And if you're a golfer, or anybody that's a golfer, scrambles are not really, yes, they are competitive as far as you have teams that win, but they're really for fun. They're not hard. You don't have to be a good golfer to play in a scramble. You have 4 people playing the same shot. They're not competitive. They're not hard. You don't have to be a great golfer. You don't even have to be a good golfer to enjoy a scramble. And everybody has fun. They spend time together, then come back at the end with a second kind of cocktail party with the awards banquets. So when it came to the executives, once they saw who was there, that part was easy. And then once they did it, they had so much fun. that they just want to do them again. And word through the executive world spread throughout the country, especially when you're looking at companies like GTI or Curaleaf, where you have Curaleaf people in one state, but they know the Curaleaf people in another state, and they tell them, hey, when they get there, make sure you go, or the Cresco Labs or whomever. But the sponsor part was really the interesting one. So it was very challenging for the first two tournaments to line up our sponsors because they didn't quite know how they got an ROI. How does this work? Okay, we get a booth at this cocktail party, we get to play golf, but where does it work? Well, because of and we're very proud of this at Lemon Haze. Our events have always been um, based on having great business discussions while having fun. That's always been our business model, to make it fun. And the sponsors started coming out and they started participating. And once they did one tournament, almost all of them picked up every tournament. So we were able to get amazing sponsors, large sponsors that everybody knows, like Bovida, like Agrify, like Bold Cartridges, like Advanced Vapor Devices. These companies that are nationwide, that are billion-dollar companies, that and they just picked up every single tournament we did. And Josh, what's made it so much fun is as we go from market to market, our executives change, and some of our sponsors change, but a lot of our sponsors stay the same. So it's almost like we're on tour as a rock band together. So take Manuel Ramirez, who's the CEO of Strain App, which is a new application for retailers / dispensaries, but they're out of Puerto Rico. And it's so funny because he lives in Puerto Rico. I see him every 2 weeks as he's back in the States for a Lemon Haze Golf Classic in a different market. And it made me laugh. We were in Boston doing our Massachusetts tournament. And one thing I like to do, I don't play in them anymore. I actually go around in a golf cart and give everybody free beer while they're driving around while they're playing. And the golfers, the executives out of Massachusetts kept coming going, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. They're like, we're talking to all these sponsors and they're talking about what happened in Oklahoma City or what happened in Detroit. They're like, you guys are on tour together. And that's really what it has become. It's become a tour. And these sponsors, and again, it's probably the best way I can tell you that's been successful is, we do the surveys, we do all that, and we get all the feedback. But when you're seeing on LinkedIn that executives from all over the country are talking about the greatest networking thing I've ever done. But the thing where it's successful is when you have a sponsor like Agrify who comes to the very first event, buys the smallest sponsorship they can get for the first event, and then jumps on with some of the largest sponsorships for the rest of the events. You've done something because they're getting an ROI out of it.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So what's going to happen after the new normal, when people aren't worried about the Delta variant or whatever is next after that? When people go back to normal, are you going to go back to not hosting these, or what's going to happen post pandemic?
It is what I am spending all of my time working on right now between tournaments and between events. We will definitely we will 100% bring back our legacy products of the bud tender events, of the buyer events. Those don't go away. We will also continue to grow these executive golf tournaments. I have hired luckily this has afforded us the opportunity to hire some new people, including a new director of events. Her name is Charlie Jackson, and we were able to poach her. She had done several corporate events. She's originally from the Seattle area and done several corporate events for Microsoft and Expedia and such, but then took the job as the manager of corporate events at Dre's nightclub here in Vegas. So we were able to poach her away from there. So she has that perfect balance of being corporate, but while at the same time being a whole lot of fun. And so Lemon Haze does plan to do 32 to 36 events nationwide in 52 weeks in 2022. So we are pushing the gas pedal down like you cannot imagine on what we have here. Josh, you and I've been on this podcast a couple of times. It is a business podcast. And we are very fortunate that we have found a model that works. That model being back to what we talked about, where you do a event for a particular segment and sell sponsorships to who wants to speak to that segment. We found a very successful way to do that with bud tenders. We've done a very successful way to do that with buyers. And now we've found a very successful way to do that with executives. And we tend to push the gas pedal down on all three of those segments of the industry. So yes, Lemon Haze is very fortunate. So what's ironic was, Josh, was going into 2020, or when the world shut down in 2020, Lemon Haze was in 4 states. Took us 4 years to get there. It took us 4 years to get to being in Washington, Oregon, California, and Nevada. Post 2020 and 2021, with the bud tender events and with these golf tournaments, in the last 6 months, we're now in 11 states. So this has really been something that has allowed us to scale, and we plan to scale even quicker. And there's going to be different decisions that need to be made within the next 12 to 18 months on how we continue that scaling. There's obviously several different ways to do that. And those are, and I don't even, if you ask me today, well, what is the way you're going to do that? Don't know yet. We're working on that, working with our advisors, with our advisory board. What we do know is with a pretty lean staff, we can be in 20 plus states next year. And that's really exciting.
May or may not include Oregon and California. I think there's pretty much lockdowns on all events in Oregon, and California's hit and miss. How are you giving people peace of mind during that uncertainty? There was a survey that just came out for MJ BizCon. They're really nailing home the idea that it's going to be in person. However, the survey was, what can we do to ensure that it's going to be in person? What is it, the things that you want? Do you want vaccinations only? Do you want, Vax Plus, and or a negative, 72-hour negative report, which is what the Seattle sports teams are all requiring now, is either Vax or 72-hour negative test, or the temperature check. What is it that you're going to do to ensure that you're going to stay conducting these tournaments while giving peace of mind?
Well, the good part about golf tournaments is you can do the entire thing outside.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you can do the entire, and the good thing, it's on a golf course, so you can really socially distance. So we do, the way our events work, we do have the morning happy hour, and we do have the evening awards ceremony happy hour, along with obviously the actual tournament itself. The morning happy hour is always outside. We do have booths for our sponsors of those tournaments. Those booths, unlike a pipe and drape facility like the convention center where MJ BizCon does our event here in Vegas, those booths don't have to be side by side. Those booths can be spread out over a large area. Mm-hmm. We keep everything spread out. Obviously, like you said, now I do live in Vegas. We were all a little nervous a couple of months ago when Governor Sisolak announced a press conference about what he was going to do, that there was going to be other shutdowns. He came out and really just basically said he's not going to shut down this state again. It was just too hard to do. But what he did give all event organizers the ability to do is you can require vaccinations in the state of Nevada for events over 4,000 people. Obviously, we're not over 4,000 people. MJ BizCon is. He really did that for the Raiders games, was really where that came about. But you can require proof of vaccination. If you do not have proof of vaccination, you can require a mask. We currently have not required vaccination cards. We did the California event. California was fine with the way we did everything outside. We did the California event 2 weeks ago, doing the same thing in Chicago next week. Works for them. But really the answer to that question is we really keep everybody distanced. We keep it outside. When you are close, like we have, most of the golf courses have a plastic screen that can come down between the two golfers on the golf cart. So we're able to keep everything basically distanced, outside, socially distanced outside. And we do have the ability in our in our Vegas tournament, our invitational, the big one, to require vaccinations. We've actually not made that decision yet. That'll go a little bit based on what some of the other things going on here in Vegas are at the same time.
There's been a few golf tournaments in the cannabis industry, and some of them have had to cancel. They just weren't successful. What is your secret sauce? What makes you able to hold these tournaments in various states that you have no previous exposure to necessarily? I mean, you've done Lemon Haze events, people know you, but to get that trust and to pay for an event across the nation requires a lot of clout, a lot of experience and that reputation. What is it about Lemon Haze and yourself that's provided such a repeated success story?
And this is going to sound funny, Josh, but it was getting out of Washington. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. And that sounded snooty, and it really wasn't meant to.
Oh, it's probably right though.
Because I do currently live in Las Vegas, and because the Nevada market is a very solid mixture of local cannabis companies and MSOs, both publicly traded MSOs and what we internally refer to as MSBs, multi-state brands like the Moxies or the Roves, or that aren't publicly traded, but they are in multiple states. It was once we were able to hold a very successful tournament in Las Vegas and have Curaleaf there, and have GTI there, and have Rove there, and have Moxie there, and have Old Pal there. Those names don't mean a lot to people in Washington, but they mean a whole lot to people around the country. So when Moxie went into when Old Pal went into a partnership deal with Tilt for their Massachusetts distribution, when we were doing our Boston tournament, I called Rusty in California, the CEO of Old Pal, and said, "Hey, can you introduce me to the guys at Tilt in Massachusetts and let them know I'm playing out there?" And he shot off an email, said, "Hey, I want to issue to Brian. They did this. We had a great time doing their tournament in Vegas. We can't wait to do the California one. You should do their Mass one." And Tilt jumped on to Massachusetts. Curaleaf is in almost every market we do. Those guys talk to their guys. So once you get those multi-state guys, whether it be public or private, then, Josh, you've been in the industry a long time. Everybody in each market knows each other. I always say, do an event in Washington, Oregon, California, Massachusetts, and Oklahoma, might as well be doing an event in Spain, France, Portugal, and Germany, because they're all completely different. The laws are different. But all those people, and you know this, you and I know everybody in Washington. The guys in Nevada know everybody in Nevada. The guys in Mass know everybody in Mass. The guys in Oklahoma know everybody in Oklahoma. So once you get the multi-state guys to jump on board, the guys in that particular state now know everybody else in that state. And just, with a little bit of word of mouth, and with a little bit of good marketing, and with having some videos from each tournament that make them look a lot of fun, which they are a lot of fun, and being able to show that, people jump on pretty quick. And like I said, when you have a golfer, you don't need four. You need a golfer for any company. For that one golfer will want to participate, and he'll grab three other people from his company or her company to jump on board. Kind of funny story about that. It's total side note. But talking about Rusty and Old Pal, when I first talked, Old Pal is based out of California, but they have a very large presence here in Nevada. So when I was talking to him and inviting him to come play in the Nevada tournament, we told him about what it was, and these are very high-end tournaments, and they're not stoner tournaments at all. These are very much business networking tournaments. They're not stoner tournaments at all. And I said, Rusty, we're going to do all this, and you're going to love it. We just ask that you keep your golfers to C-suite, VP, and directors, because the sponsors are really what make these things go. And I said, if you happen to have a manager or something that was was a All-American golfer at USC. Okay, we'll let him on the team. He goes, no. Brian, it's better than that. He goes, we can't play golf with the flip. But my CMO was the captain of the women's golf team at Georgetown. He goes, we just follow her around. We just putt every now and then. So it's that kind of thing that that fun aspect of it that gets them out here.
Well, if people are interested, how can they get a hold of you guys at Lemon Haze and get on the schedule to see, if they can't make it to Chicago, you've got one more this year, and then, damn, would you say 3 dozen next year?
Yeah, not quite 3 dozen. Yeah, we've got so we've got Chicago coming up this weekend, and then we've got Tampa Bay. So talk about going to a place where they're not worried about vaccinations. We've got Tampa Bay in 2 weeks, and then October 19th, the day before MJ BizCon, we're back here for the Invitational here in Vegas. You can go to our website, lemonhaze.com. We have all of the current tournaments on there from what we call the Classic Tour, Lemon Haze Cannabis Executive Golf Classics, and then the Invitational here in Las Vegas. You can follow me on LinkedIn. You'll see a lot of that, especially dealing with the Invitational on LinkedIn, which is just Brian Yager at Brian Yager on LinkedIn, or social media at Lemon Haze Party on Instagram is where you can find a lot of that. But yeah, those are really the main places to find it. And they really have been something that's so much fun seeing all of the different companies post so much about our events on their social media and on their LinkedIns after each tournament. It's been a lot of fun. So was it 3 dozen? Well, it is a couple of dozen events total. But yes, so as far as the golf tournaments are concerned, in 2022, we'll have our current golf tournaments that we'll do again, which will be Vegas, Arizona, Oklahoma City, Boston, Southern California, Detroit, Chicago, and Tampa Bay. In 2022, we'll be adding also Northern California, Ohio, New Jersey, potentially Virginia, or Maryland, up in there on that one. And then coming back with our bud tender events, which obviously we do in Seattle, Spokane, Portland, Bay Area, LA, Phoenix, Vegas, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Detroit, Boston. I'm forgetting a bunch of them, but yes. So between all of those, we're going to have almost 3 dozen events, and the buyer events, almost 3 dozen events in 2022 of all levels, bud tender, buyer, executive. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting year. We're going to be tired when it's all over, but it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I'm hoping to get into Vegas and see you in next month. Time flies.
Yeah,
cool.
It really has. I mean, it was just it really is amazing. We kicked this tour off on April 28th of this year in Vegas, and from April 28th till now, we have added 8 new states to our repertoire of Lemon Haze markets. And Josh, on the business side of it, what's been really interesting is these executives that are playing in our golf tournaments. Once they started looking at our website and researching who Lemon Haze was, as they were looking at playing in our tournament, and they saw the bud tender events, they come up to me now. So the exact people that are our target audience in our executive golf tournaments are the exact people that will be our customers at the bud tender events, because they're coming to me going, hey, this is great, but when do the bud tender events come back? Because that's what we want to be a part of. So, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun working with, honestly, I'm going to say it this way. We deal with the most important decision makers in cannabis. And while that may sound like I'm talking about the executives, I'm talking about the bud tenders too. The executives are who decide where the industry goes, but the bud tenders are who decides what products are getting out into the world. And that makes them just as important as a COO or a CEO, just in a different way.
Yeah, a lot of
fun working with both of them.
A lot of overlap there, so a lot of synergies with different events that you have and crossover. So yeah, it's going to be good. Definitely looking to running into you in Vegas here next month. So I have to do some follow up once I get into town.
Absolutely, looking forward to it.
Likewise. All right, I think with that, we should wrap this up. I want to thank my guest, Brian Yager. He's running Lemon Haze events. That's golf tournaments, bud tender, all that good stuff. Brian, appreciate you being on the Talking Hedge.
Thanks, Josh. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't. And I'm out. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.